Inside the Birds is back. What's up, everybody? Adam Caplan, Geoff Mosher. This is the bye-week, midweek edition of Inside the Birds, where we're going to really recap the Birds' second straight win over the Bears. But, Adam, we have a lot to get into, a lot of things going on with the team that go beyond what happened against Chicago. We're really going to kind of look back on the first. Well, no, we'll do that later.
The other show, yeah, our second show, Geoff. We're going to do one more show this week. That's going to be a bye-week special. Where we go over everything we saw, everything we heard from our people, from around the league as well, about what they thought of the Eagle State. But this game specifically, and plus we'll get into the DeSean Jackson stuff. I know people want to talk about it, but if you've been listening to us since Wednesday of week 2, we outlined exactly what it was. And unfortunately, this if DeSean would have had the surgery, we wouldn't be talking about this. But it is what it is. A good Eagles win, Geoff, but I know you were pretty fired up after this win. You were thinking that that it should have been better.
Well, yes, and I respect the fact that the Bears are a really good team, Adam, and I think the sentiment good defense, right. The sentiment that I was trying to convey was that it wasn't just about the Bears game. It was really about the reality of losing DeSean, of having to be a totally different offense that you expected to be, and now you have a big sample, a half of a season of seeing what this offense can do, and to me, this is last year's offense without Golden Tate, and we know how much last year's offense struggled. I think they're a little bit better equipped with using Dallas Goedert in the running game more, but at the end of the day, we've seen them struggle against good defenses, but we've even seen them struggle against bad teams, like the Jets, for example, is not a very good team. The Lions, for example. And so when you look at what they have to do going forward with the news that DeSean is going on IR and probably out for the rest of the year, I felt like what we saw Sunday is the best that it can be for the Eagles. Just an okay offense.
Well, I would say this. When you look at the Bears, Geoff, and obviously we're going to cover this game, they scored 22 points. You go, well, 22 points, that's not enough. Well, the Eagles were only one of 3 teams to score over 21 against their defense this season. So you got to take it for what it is. I thought, and this is interesting, I didn't know this watching the game in the press box where we could see, but we don't have instant replay and we can't see tape. Their run game, as good as it was, their line was incredible. I mean, you just don't do this to a defensive front like the Bears. Their line was awesome. I want to give a shout out to Mike Rowe, Doug Peterson, Deuce Staley, and Jeff Stoutland. Their plan together, and also the tight end coach. What's the guy's the name escapes you right now? He played Justin Peele. Justin Peele. Everything that they did for the run game was synchronized incredibly well. The execution by the players was tremendous. But I had one guy already grade the tape for me whose team is playing the Eagles in a couple weeks. He goes, I'll tell you what. He goes, if Miles Sanders had been the running back, he might have had 200 yards. And Jordan Howard is very good. I'm not taking anything away from him, but he's not fast enough. There was a play where he got, 20 yards up the middle, where it looked like the Red Sea was parting. And he picked the right. He could have won to the either gap. He hit the right gap. But because he's not fast enough, Geoff, he can't break it like Miles can. I know you had brought up a couple shows ago, despite how Howard was playing, you wanted Miles Sanders to get the football more. That's my vote here. Get Miles Sanders the ball more, at least in the run game.
Welcome aboard, my friend.
Yes.
All right. Can we let's I think it's hard to discuss what our plans for or our analysis of this offense without first going through the DeSean Jackson situation. There are people that are mad. There are people mad at the medical staff. There are people that are mad at DeSean. There are people who are just mad about the situation in general. We've talked about this since it started, that DeSean was trying to be a good teammate because he knew the reputation was he's going to miss a bunch of games every year, right? And he was trying to rehab this thing and get better and not have to be out for the year. He's trying to win a Super Bowl. The medical staff, as Doug pointed out, suggested surgery. He opted not to. I have a hard time finding. You can find fault, but what are we going to complain about? There's nothing. We can't put the genie back in the bottle here and go back.
Fans are mad, right? I first of all, what really happened was Dr. William Meyer suggested surgery. He might have got an opinion from another specialist. I'm not sure about that, but I do know that Myers, who's going to do the surgery this week, suggested that he had surgery. Now, agents and teams always use Dr. Myers. They suggest it. They're okay with it. They have a very good relationship with Dr. Myers. By the way, his office is around the block in the Naval Shipyard, so it's fine. Jeff's right. Fans want blood because they're pissed off that DeSean played. Now, let me bring this up because it's a fair criticism. Should DeSean have played this past game against Chicago? Could have they given him 2 more weeks for it to heal even more? It'll never get to 100% without surgery during the season. But let's say it was at 70%. Could they gotten to 80, 85? Sure. If you give him 2 more weeks to rehab, that's a fair criticism. I mean, in Doug was asked by I don't know which writer asked him. It was a very good question. Would you have been better off? And Doug talked about it, of not playing him. And Doug, one of the things I really respect about him, he rarely will not answer a question. And he thought about it. Hindsight is 20/20. So yeah, you could say that they probably could have held him out a couple more weeks, not be so desperate to get him out there. But I don't know if we could say they were desperate because I know for a fact that he had kind of plateaued. He got to the point where he can go out there and play. He was going to be in pain. He's going to have soreness. At some point, you just got to say, dude, you're either going to play with us or you're not. And he took one for the team and he did it and it just didn't work.
I think we probably mentioned on this show 100 times that he'll never be 100% because he's not having it repaired. And so whether it's 60%, 80%, 75%, the reality is anytime he goes out there and makes a football move, he could wind up re-aggravating it because the tear is still there. So you could have waited 2 more weeks and the same exact thing could have happened on the first drive against the Patriots are next. So to me, it's not a big deal waiting. If he was ready to play, you have to beat the Bears. And it's easy to say now that the Bears are a train wreck, but they didn't win that game by 30 points. In fact, if that game was 1 quarter longer, you would have gotten a little scared, right? You have to beat a team that has a top 5 defense. He's ready to play. They played him. I don't think saving him against New England so he could have done the same thing in the first drive would have mattered that much. That's my personal take. I just don't think anything was going to change.
Just to add to, before we move on to the next subject, I gave my sort of opening statement on what the run game looked like. But in terms of the pass game with DeSean, look, the fact of the matter is he's not going to play again. I'm told in the regular season he's not coming back for the regular season. Whatever reports are out there, you could choose to believe who you want. I'm just telling you he's not playing the rest of the regular season. If they make the playoffs, could he be potentially back? Yes, but it depends how far they go. This is not a 4 to 6 week injury. He actually completely tore the abdomen groin area off the bone. My buddy John Clark put it out there. I confirmed it within about 30 seconds. It's true. But John's timeline is completely different from mine. We've been giving you play-by-play for 10 weeks. 100% all of it was correct. And Geoff made a very good point. Even if you wait 2 more weeks, you could have the same result. I think, Geoff, you probably made the best point so far. People don't seem to understand that. Whenever you play with a tear in your abdomen or groin, you could rehab it to a certain point without surgery, but you could also tear it or have a setback. He had a significant setback, and he actually, it's funny because you couldn't MRI it during the game. He actually wanted to go back in, but he didn't feel right, and thank God he didn't go back in. But fact of the matter is, Geoff, let's move on here. So yeah. Offensively, Geoff, what did you think of their game plan to be way more Zach Ertz centric, which I thought was pretty smart?
Look, I think that's what the Eagles have to be now. I think they have to, and you said it yesterday, you tweeted it, I tweeted it too. They have alternated between 11 personnel and 12 personnel as best as they can this year. I think it's time to become 12 personnel almost all the time. I don't love the idea of having a wide receiver out there who gives you absolutely nothing on every single snap. And right now that's what you're getting from Mac Hollins. And you're getting very little from Nelson Aguilar. So in my personal opinion, when you have 5 outlets and 2 of them are giving you nothing, you have 40% of an offense that's giving you very little to nothing. So go take that wide receiver off the field, use your offensive line, use your running backs, use your tight ends, become that 2 tight end offense that we spoke about with New England years back. I don't know if they're good enough to win a Super Bowl that way because at the end of the day, when they face some good defenses, the inability to stretch the field is going to be a problem. And the number 2 thing I would say is when you become a ball control, 2 tight end, matriculate the ball down the field type of offense, the 2 things you have to do really well are catch the ball and not turn the ball over. And against good teams this year, they've turned the ball over and they've dropped the ball, even against some bad teams. So I don't know that they can be what everybody wanted them to be going into the year, but I think that's their best option.
Right, and Vaitai played 6 snaps. You can go jumbo, 2 tight end with Goddard. By the way, Goddard and Ertz play the same exact amount of snaps. 70 out of 89 snaps for Goddard. He's a big part of the game plan in terms of running the ball. But I would add to what you were saying in that he needs to get the ball more in the passing game. You can't wait till the second half. Get him involved early. He's a matchup nightmare because he's so big and physical. And Ertz, from the tape study from one of my friends who watched the Eagles tape, said that Ertz ran circles around their man coverage. I have to give the coaches credit. They got what they anticipated. It's never about 100% certainty. You can only go by what you anticipate. Their game plan was to go at Eddie Jackson. Whoever they thought Ertz had to get beat, he beat him. He was incredible. He got open. He got run after the catch. His touchdown, the run after the catch by Zach for the touchdown was great. The design is great. Now, I have to criticize Wentz one play, Geoff. He had another touchdown, first half, 5-yard line. It was a quick little jerk route. Ertz got open, and Wentz stared at him. I don't know why he didn't throw the football. You got to throw it. That's a touchdown, by the way. And you know what? They scored 26 points instead of 22. I don't know if people are complaining. It was actually, I'll have to give the coaches credit. As critical as we've been, they designed the hell out of that run game. That was really, really cool. For what I could see and what people have told me, the tape was just remarkable, and the coaches deserve credit. But Jeff's right, though. You can't let teams back in. This game could have been real interesting in the fourth quarter had the Bears gotten the ball back, but the Eagles ran the ball down their throat. Yeah,
so 2 things. One, I thought Doug coached a really good game, and I think people were getting frustrated in the third quarter with some of the plays that weren't working, and even some of the like the screen to Miles Sanders where he lost yards, and people hate that same screen that they'd be running. I think what's really important for everyone to understand is that, and Doug will never say this, but he's coaching with one hand tied behind his back. And that goes back to the point I'm making about you're throwing 5 outlets out there and 2 of them are giving you absolutely nothing. So much like last year, he has to ride the tight ends and the running backs as often as possible. So if it looks like he's going to the same people all the time, that's because there's only 2 or 3 guys that can give them anything on any single play. So I thought for that, against the great defense that the Bears have, that, yeah, some of those plays you kind of like, man, what are you thinking, Doug? Well, he's thinking he's got to try something different and something the opponent has not yet seen, which is very difficult when you're only working with 3 guys who can actually catch the ball.
Yes, I would also add there's this media belief that you can't run against a loaded front, which is complete nonsense. What you do is you run to one side. You go with a 6 lineman, a second tight end, and Goddard, and you run to that side. You absolutely could do it. You could run against a 9-man front. The fact that people think you can't, you don't know football. If you don't, I remember asking coaches, and they used to laugh at me like, "What are you talking about? Of course you can."
Does. Oh, God.
But what I would tell you is, but you have to understand how you block it and how you design. If you don't design it well, you just can't go in. Okay, well, you know what? They're loading the box against us. Wow, we weren't expecting that. We don't know what to do. No, you know what you anticipate. Their run game design was off the hook. It was pretty cool to watch, and everything I thought was backed up by people who graded the tape already. And that's good. Jeff's right, though. It's a great point that Doug he's really coaching to the personnel. But let me ask you this question. And I know Arcega-Whiteside only played 15 snaps, and he hasn't done anything yet. And this guy was a second-round pick. We could talk all we want how he's a duplication of Jeffrey. Jeffrey right now, I don't know what's wrong with him. The drop passes, physically, I don't know what's wrong with this guy. Do you start giving him some snaps? I mean, what do you do?
You could. I don't think that might fix your inconsistency issue that you're having with Alshon Jeffrey, but it's not going to fix your field stretching issue that you're having on the other side of Alshon Jeffrey. He's not a speed guy. I think that's something we'll talk about in our next podcast when we kind of look back on the whole first half and some things that went right and wrong. I mean, clearly you can put this whole wide receiver situation on the front office, the coaches, and the players 1/3, because nobody is doing their job correctly in this regard. But to talk about an immediate fix, Doug wants 11 personnel. He wants 3 wide receivers on the field because he likes to run. Again, you're right. You can run against a loaded box, but it sure is easier when you can spread the ball out and run only against a 6-man front. And they've had a lot of success running out of 11 personnel. I think Doug would like to bring in a receiver who can run, even if he can just be a decoy. We mentioned Dante Moncrief. He got signed by the Panthers, or claimed off waivers by the Panthers, Adam. Yeah, I don't know if there's anyone out there. I'm sure there's a few people that they'll look at. But look, Doug said it himself. He said this is real. Like, they need to figure this thing out because they can not just have players on the field who give zero production.
Yeah, I now let me answer that, because we're not on our bye week self scout, that we're not going to be talking much about who's out there. It's about where they're at and what they can do. But I'll just add this. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants Jordan Matthews. The fans want Jordan Matthews, Geoff. I mean, we know that. Jordan Matthews is a duplication of what they already have. However, with one asterisk, the difference between what they have and what he is, at least he can get open. Can he go down the field? No. Can he line up outside? Yes. Jordan and I talked on NFL radio, I'm going to say back in February, and we talked about it. He's like, look, coach has put me into a hole, but I absolutely could play outside. He's like, I've done it. But he doesn't run that well downfield. Would I sign him? Okay, you want to do that? Is he better than their 4 and their 5 receivers at this point? Yes. That's why you would do it. But fans have to calm down expecting like this guy's going to solve their issues. He will not.
No. And here's what I would do, Adam, on that. I would actually take a little bit of a different approach if I signed Jordan Matthews. Whenever I did go to 11 personnel, I would play Nelson Aguilar on the outside and Jordan Matthews in the slot, because right now Nelson is giving you nothing on the outside and nothing in the slot. At least Jordan Matthews from the slot is where he's comfortable. He catches the ball fairly well. It's not, he's on another guy who can drop a little bit, but in general, he's going to catch the ball. And then you can have just Nelson running your clear out routes and not have to you're not going to get anything from Nelson Aguilar as an outside receiver. But right now, you're not getting anything from Mac Hollins as an outside receiver. But I think you can do better in the slot with Matthews there than what you're getting from Nelson there, if that makes sense.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I agree. Well, Nelson could run a little bit. But he's not really an outside receiver. All right, so Mac Hollins, here's what I'm told, because I've been wanting to get in the bottom of this, so at least I found out. His off the line, he's not as explosive as he was 2 years ago. Apparently, it shows up on tape. Mm-hmm. Where we knew 2 years ago, there was one thing he could really do. He could get downfield in a straight line because he had really good straight line speed. Mm-hmm. He's not fast off the blocks. He's not as fluid. That's part of it. But why they're not? I'm sorry.
You think the surgery is the reason?
I don't. I can't answer. I don't know. I just know what the tape looks like from people I trust. He doesn't look quite the same. That's part of it. But what the thing I don't have an answer for, the coaches don't have. No one seems to know. Because Doug didn't have an answer for it. What? You can't tell me that Mac Hollins is at least getting open occasionally. You can't throw the ball a couple times? That's it. I'm off my soapbox with this stuff.
No, I think it's a really good point, and it's something I want to talk about a little more on Friday. I think, we've been very praiseworthy of Carson, but when we look back on the first half, I think I'll just say this and kind of end it at that. Aaron Rodgers is out there with guys, after with Devontae Adams got hurt, he was out there with guys I'd never heard of, Ludlow and the other wide receiver who I'd never heard of, and he makes them better. And Tom Brady and Russell Wilson. Wilson's been throwing touchdowns to guys I didn't even know existed. There's something about Carson where he's not giving these struggling guys an opportunity to get back on track, and I think that's a little bit on him.
Yeah, I would say this. Well, if that's the case, then coaches have to coach that out of him. It's not acceptable. And I would also tell you that I gave him a 9.5 out of a 10-point scale 2 years ago at this time. He's up to about an 8. He's playing very well, by the way. I don't want to say he's not, but Geoff made a fair point here. There are things that he could do better. And I'm not saying locking in Ertz last week. I mean, he should have. Oh my God, he should have. He was getting open. He was winning. Throw him the football. That's his job. The coaches did a good job. But Geoff's right. You got to throw it to these guys if they get open. If it's a positive play, for Christ's sake, throw the football, man. I don't know what else to tell you. So that it gets me fired up when I watch tape or I hear from people when you're putting these guys out there. They're not that scared. You know what? If you're going to do that and they're not going to throw them the ball, you might as well play with 7 offensive linemen because the other receivers aren't getting the football. That's enough of that.
All right, I want to close this thing on the defense, just a quick point on the cornerbacks and the D-line. Before we do that, let me pause real quick to tell you about our friends at Anchor. All right, also I want to tell you, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've been putting a lot of content up on the Inside the Birds YouTube channel, so please check it out. There's these podcasts, there's locker room interviews. We're going to start doing a little bit more, so please go to YouTube and subscribe to the Inside the Birds YouTube channel. And while you're there, subscribe to Hunter Brody's YouTube channel. That's Sports with Broads on YouTube. He is helping us produce this podcast, my colleague from 97.3 ESPN. The best reaction to Philadelphia sports wins and losses comes on Sports with Broads on YouTube. It is a sight to behold. That's all I'm going to say.
I got to check that out, man.
Nice. Really got to check it out. All right, so the defense real quick, Adam. I think going forward, there's a lot to feel comfortable about with how Fletcher Cox has responded, and also the cornerbacks. I know they're playing the Bears and the Bills, and they haven't really been tested, but I just feel like they've got stability there with Avonte Maddox back and that secondary right now.
Geoff, I would tell you this with the way that Fletcher Cox played, and I don't know what his stats look like. I'm just telling you from tape study from two people I trust. This is his best game in 2 years. He was, and I know the Bear offensive line is not great, because when you look at Cox, you go, well, all he had is a one quarterback carry. He didn't have any sacks. Has nothing to do with it. By the way, sacks are a result of one play. That has nothing to do with how he played for the entire game. He was impossible to block.
Mm-hmm.
He was physical. You might remember the play where he threw the lineman into the quarter Trubisky.
Yeah.
See, what happens with Cox sometimes when he puts up superhuman stats, he'll go a quarter and a half without not doing much. He was unbelievably impactful in their run game. Mm-hmm. And the other one I want to mention is Anthony Rush. I've been telling people about this guy for like 6 months on this show. The Eagles never should have cut him. They're onto something with him. He needs work on his hand placement. He's a mammoth. Mm-hmm. And he had plays where they made Montgomery go the other way because he was going to run into Rush. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So he's earned himself a spot on this football team. I'd be shocked if they ever moved away from him.
I'd also like to point out that Brandon Graham, who everybody likes to say after any particular loss, oh, the Eagles got sentimental, they shouldn't have done this, shouldn't have done that, has 6 sacks and is on pace for the most sacks of his career this year. He's been playing fine all year long. It's just the whole, whenever they lose, you got to blame somebody. So age and Brandon becomes part of the issue.
Yeah, so the line was really good. Nate Gary in the run game, or even if they throw a short pass, went the wrong way, missed tackles. He's a great
up and down.
Yeah, he's a good story of development in that, look, this guy is a former safety. He's not real big. The fact that he's technically starting or playing the amount of snaps he is a head shaker. It's probably not what you want. In fact, I know it's not what you want on normal circumstances, but at some point it's going to really hurt them in the run game. It did against Buffalo a little bit, but they got away with it because they got a big lead. T.J. Edwards looked very good, I'm told, in his limited playing time. He didn't play a lot. And the big story, though, is the corner play from Jalen Mills and Ronald Darby. The eye discipline, I'm told, has been terrific. Yeah. Ron Jaworski told me that against Buffalo, and I know the wind had something to do with it, he said Darby is all the way back physically. He thought he looked as good as he has in the last couple of years. So that's a good sign. So look, and Avonte Maddox also looked great. He had one play that he'd like to have back. The play that Mills did, the big play to Gabriel was not on Mills. It was on
Darby,
one of the safeties.
In an inverted.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, it was even on Darby a little bit because they were playing an inverted Tampa 2, and he's got to get over there. But so it was
safety.
Busted coverage.
Right, whatever. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is way more discipline. Duke Riley showed up a little bit. Who knew? Duke Riley would actually play a little bit on defense. He has a little bit lately, not just a special teams guy. So Tim Jernigan didn't quite look like he did before the injury. Again, it's his first game back. This is when we told you he'd be back by midseason. We told you about 4 weeks ago. That's what the team thought. But they don't have the luxury, because they don't have any depth at D-tackle, Geoff. They don't have the luxury of, when they're back from the bye, he's got to play more snaps. They just don't have anyone else.
All right, well, we will wrap it up with that. Good Eagles win, and we'll talk more about their overall state of the team on Friday when we recap the first half and then look ahead to the second half. So we'll listen to you, Adam Caplan, on 97.3 ESPN at 3 o'clock on Wednesday, as we always do. So make sure you tune in and download the free mobile app at 97.3 ESPN. Also, a special thanks to our friends at PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing the fan experience with their coverage of the Phillies, the Flyers, the Sixers, who got their first loss the other night, and, of course, the Philadelphia Eagles. So make sure you go over to PHLSportsNation.com and do it. Go to YouTube, Sports with Broads. Check them out. It's unbelievable. And while you're there, also subscribe to Inside the Birds YouTube channel. All right, that'll do it for Adam Caplan. I'm Geoff Mosher. As always, we thank you for flying with us inside the Birds.